Military aircraft are incredibly complex. They utilize the most modern technologies in order to fulfill whatever role it is they're designed to fulfill, and often we focus on what they can do, what the different technologies that they implement can do, their pretty awesome capability, the munitions they can use to fulfill that role, perhaps. But that's what I'd like to focus on, the role itself, the purpose they are designed to fulfill. So not every aircraft is the same, as you'll know. Something like a C-17 Globemaster III does not have the same role as a Eurofighter Typhoon, which in itself does not have the same role as an F-22 Raptor. And any of these aircraft certainly don't have the same role as something like the Augusta Westland Apache or the Predator drone. So beyond fixed-wing aircraft, I think it's worth diving into. So I'm going to explain, and apologies, I don't think that's a C-17. I'm going to try to explain the different roles of these aircraft, and obviously aircraft can have multiple roles that they implement, but generally these designations of purpose aren't, 6 or 8 roles, they are 2 or 3. Weapons systems must be specialized to an extent in order to be effective against other weapons systems, because the forefront of technology, put it this way, using the best technology, somebody will create a specialized weapons system which will be able to beat a non-specialized weapons system any day. So while we may have the technological capability to make, a bomb strike attack surveillance plane, we tend not to, because it means it would not fare well up against something that is specified for its role. What we'll cover today are fixed-wing platforms, and that's just an aircraft that uses propulsion and wings in order to keep itself in the air and moving, and rotary wing platforms, which is a helicopter, something that utilizes a rotor mechanism in order to generate thrust, as well as UAS. So for fixed-wing aircraft, we'll start off with what most people are familiar with, and that's fighter aircraft. If you live in the US, you'll probably know it simply because it begins with the name F, F-22, F-35, F-16, F-18. The role of the fighter is air-to-air combat, air-to-air superiority, both in attack and defense. Although generally more so in attack. It's designed to eliminate or control enemy targets with maximal efficiency within the aerial arena specifically. So in regard to variants one can get on this, one can get night fighters, which are designed to, as it sort of says on the tin, fight at night. They are specialized with sort of perhaps infrared technology, at least in the past. Escort fighters, which are designed to escort bombers and cargo planes to their specific destination, or planes which do not have ample protection in themselves. There are air superiority fighters, that's something like the F-22, which is designed, simply to win in dogfights with other enemy planes, particularly other fighters. There's interceptor aircraft, which is something I'd say is like the Typhoon, designed to get off the ground as quickly as possible and go and intercept enemy aircraft in a certain area, so used more in a defensive air-to-air capability. And fighter bombers, sort of as it says on the tin, designed to be able to fight effectively as well as bomb a target. Strike fighters, which are a combination of fighting and the utilization of bombing, missile, electronic warfare technologies. And then there's light and heavy fighters, which effectively just describes the size and particularly the weight of the fighter itself, but that is something that entails maneuverability at odds with, I guess, capability and the armaments it can carry. So, beyond fighters, there are bombers, and again, it's simply in the name. They're designed to strike targets using bombs and other specified munitions, perhaps torpedoes or cruise missiles. Generally, these aircraft are bulkier, designed to deliver a payload rather than contend with enemy aircraft, and they lack often maneuverability and they lack defensive capability, or they have limited defensive capability. So since World War II, we've moved away from having turret gunners on bombers. Generally, bombers are designed to strike the target, but they'll be escorted by fighters, and they'll try to stay away from the target as much as possible, often, acting at high altitude or simply maximizing stealth, or they have the ability to break through the defenses of enemy lines through sheer force, something like the B-1 Lancer. So you've got sort of light, medium, and heavy bombers designed to have basically a trade-off of payload for maneuverability and stealth. Then there's dive bombers, which is something more seen in World War II, something like the Stuka, and torpedo bombers, which is something again more seen in World War II, designed to carry singular munitions for precise strikes, and then stealth bombers, something like the B-2 Spirit. Attack aircraft is the next one, and they're designed to provide close air support for troops. So they come in a variety of shapes and sizes, and are often coupled with sort of fighters' strike capability. But usually attack aircraft are designed for a singular role. Their job is to engage from the air in the battlefield on the ground and eliminate targets to aid ground forces, rather than, facilitate air-to-air combat. Their aim is to further military movement and overall cripple the enemy on the ground, destroying air defenses, radar arrays, as well as tanks and other more active threats. So, and apologies, I'm having to drink so much water. I have been running around and shouting today. Anyway, you have general attack aircraft, something you might see like the A-10 Thunderbolt II, the Warthog, which is designed to strike the ground using various air-to-surface munitions, as well as its massive Avenger Gatling gun at the front, the rotary gun. Then you've got something which is bigger, designed to operate from a higher altitude and not necessarily get so close to the target. Something like, I'm sure you've seen the videos, I believe it's A-130 gunship. And these are designed to remain at high altitude and engage on the battlefield below as effectively as possible, while keeping their distance so they are not struck by any air-to-air, surface-to-air defenses. Then there's stuff like counterinsurgency aircraft, and also, in a rotary sense, attack helicopters, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, beyond this, these are the sort of main ones we know. But there are combinations as well. So, there are certain planes that are often adapted from other planes, either attack aircraft or fighter aircraft, that attempt to utilize electronic warfare. So electronic warfare aircraft, they come in all shapes and sizes, and to an extent, it's a subsection of attack aircraft. So one can see aircraft in this category like the EA-18G Growler, which is a modified FA-18 Super Hornet. And the idea is that one can make certain fighter or attack aircraft that come in closer range format and have electronic warfare capability. But alternatively, sort of the other side of the coin, you can have larger aircraft that are used, that disrupt the overall electronic warfare across the entire battle space. In this case, you have something smaller, like the EA-18G Growler, something, one specific unit plane, which, preciseness in this scenario specifically correlates to the size of the aircraft used. The preciseness of electronic disruption determines the size of the aircraft necessary. And that's generally how it works, and how close one wants to get. So you need a larger aircraft if you don't want to engage, which simultaneously, that works vice versa, effectively. I'm stumbling across my words a little bit here. But beyond this, there's sort of the outliers, something that's not directly used for enemy attack per se. There's stuff like patrol aircraft designed to survey the battle space, maximize information of friendly forces. They may operate in a maritime setting, probably where they're most famous, you have a lot of maritime patrol aircraft, but they can also operate over land as well. And they're traditionally to conduct ISR, which is intelligence, reconnaissance, and surveillance. And so these patrol aircraft can extend to stuff like the U-2, stuff that is designed specifically to spy. So the modified Canberra, for example. Patrol can be recce patrol, effectively. It's recon patrol, reconnaissance. So it can extend to that. Then there's also stuff like cargo and transport, which is very, very important because not only does it aid ground forces, but planes need fuel. Everything needs fuel. Any vehicle does need fuel at the moment. We are slightly moving into more electric-based vehicles, but currently everything still needs fuel, so tankers are needed. Other cargo planes are needed for airdrops. You have a lot of other aircraft which may be bigger, bulkier, like the C-17, that are designed specifically for cargo and transport, and that is their only role. Zero defensive capability, generally zero battlefield engagement, as it were. And then beyond this, of course, once we've got past all the categories, there's the multi-role aircraft, which it's pretty simple. It's just a combination of any category I've just said. So Eurofighter, for example, the Typhoon is designed to be an interceptor strike fighter. The FA-18 Hornet or Super Hornet is designed to be an attack fighter. So it goes on. And this combination role is often used particularly as the modern strike fighter has taken quite a hold in a lot of countries. And that's the one that has proven really to be the most versatile and the most useful. Beyond this, there's UAVs, UAS systems, which I'm just going to quickly put in a category of their own. But so far, they've been used really just for ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and perhaps small strikes, very precise strikes, but I did a video on that and what they might become in the future, so that's really neither here nor there. For rotary wing platforms, which we'll say for simplicity for this specific video, that it's just limited to helicopters. Because there are certain UAS systems that utilize rotary technology, but we're just going to stick to helicopters. So first off, the most famous attack helicopters. They're designed to strike targets and provide close air support. And sort of beyond this, or included in this, they're designed to destroy tanks and the like, and engage in the battle space with the army on the ground, like an attack aircraft, like an attack plane. But more than this, they are also designed for ISR purposes. They are designed to give an overview, a broader overview of the battle space. And so, generally, they engage purely in ground forces, which is why you see, let's say, in the British Army, you don't see the Apache being listed, or most Apaches aren't listed under the RAF's forces. They are in the British Army because they fight with ground forces. Due to this, they don't really have too much anti-air capability. For some helicopters like the Apache, they'll have specific munitions that can take down fixed-wing aircraft, or some other helicopters in some cases, but generally they are designed to engage in an air-to-ground role. Next, there is the transport helicopter, which is, as it sounds, it's something like I never know how to pronounce it, I really should figure it out, the Chinook, or Chinhook. I'm just going to call it the Chinook. Basically, they are designed to transport either people or things, like a cargo or transport plane, and often they are used for air assault. So you actually have troops being dropped into a specific area via helicopter, and I forgot to mention that for the transport plane, so if you held on this long, there you go. There's an extra nugget about transport planes. You often have either line drops or paratrooping operations, and they can also drop specific supplies or collect specific supplies with more precision. So a cargo plane drops it out of the sky and literally hopes it lands in the correct place, with some planning, of course, whereas something like a transport helicopter quite literally places it down in the correct place. So it's far more specific, but that carries higher risk because it's closer to the ground, far easier to be shot down. Anyway, there's also observation helicopters, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. These have very good sensors and seekers and avionics systems and electronics designed to maneuver in such a manner that they can gain a sort of maximal view of the battle space. And generally, these have either absolutely bare bones or no munitions whatsoever. They're not designed for engagement. They are designed to remain stealthy. They are designed to carry out their function of ISR and observation. Then there are maritime aircraft, which do have their own specific purpose. They have their own special role, which is effectively a number of things. It's to be used in any domain they possibly can in the maritime sense. So that might be, as we've seen on the new frigates, the implementation of helicopters to drop torpedoes, depth charges, as well as carry out maritime ISR, carry troops. You can drop troops into the sea. So you might see certain SBS drops into the sea from some sort of an aircraft. Maritime aircraft that is rotary wing, something like the Merlin or the Wildcat, or generally in this scenario, the Merlin. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there because I've covered most of it, but that should give a bit of a quick overview so you can sort of understand where specifically different planes get their roles from, different helicopters get their roles from, and how that can sort of fit in and merge, and multi-role stuff can be created. So I should probably stop waffling on now.